let's be honest, the word comic books have expanded just beyond American comics. Stuff like manga, manhwa, and graphic novels have been considered comic books for a while now. These things have blown up a lot within the past decade, and stuff like anime are being adapted, and that gets the fans from the animes to want to check out the manga. It seems, though, that American comics have fallen off a bit as well. Key point, the best-selling single-issue American comic is X-Men #1. It sold for 600 million copies. However, the thing with that book was released in 1991, during the modern age of comic books. And let's compare that to 2025's best-selling comic book. The best-selling comic book for a single issue in 2025 was Deadpool and Batman, reportedly selling 500,000 copies. It's kind of a huge downgrade, and to be fair, I am comparing a world record to something that's new, so maybe it is a bit unstable, but who knows. Superman is ultimately the best-selling American comic book series, but it was taken down as of recently. As of 2026, Ichiro Oda's One Piece became the best-selling comic book of all time. Keep in mind, Superman was created in 1938. One Piece came out in 1997. Superman had a 79-year head start. With all this said in mind, I come to wonder why American comic books have been kind of falling off a bit. Is it because of how they are? Is it because of the authors? Is it because of the quality? We're about to find out in this video. If you want to see me talk about more about comic books in general, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notification bells. That way you'll never miss a video. So, without further ado, here is why I believe American comic books have been falling off. First off, you could probably just bring out the obvious and say, oh, well, kids don't just read as much. But here's the thing. Reportedly, manga has made 40 to 50% of comic book sales if we gather around different comic book genres together for sales. And, like, I don't know how to describe this genre, but it's like the kid comic books, right? Such as, like, Dogman and stuff like that. That has reportedly made about 29 to 30% of comic book sales. And the traditional American comic book has only made 15 to 12% of sales. The rest is indie gems, right? It's like Spawn, Hellboy, and stuff like that. So it's not like there's a demand to this. It's not like the demand is dead. People clearly want to check out what the comic books have to offer, regardless if it's kids, indie, manga, and comic books in general. There's a huge demand for this, regardless of which format they're going to want to pick out from. So how about I actually check out the American comic books in general? Let's take a look. So to examine everything, I decided to grab issues from Absolute Batman, Exquisite Corpse, Marvel Rivals, and Ben 10 Dynamite, and see if what is inside the book is what's the problem. And immediately I found out. So I decided to score this all into little bits on ads and story. Because clearly when you're trying to market a big budgeted company, you're going to want to include ads to your big popular series. So when I did eventually start reading some of these issues, I realized some of these were just boatload of ads, and some of these were actually pretty much worth their money. With Ben 10 Dynamite scoring at 12 pages worth of ads and 19 pages worth of story, Batman with 5 pages worth of ads and 42 pages worth of story, which is pretty much of a steal for me in my opinion. Exquisite Corpse, 1 page of ads out of 65 pages of story. Okay, as for Marvel Rivals, this one was the kind of in tie with Absolute Batman. It was 12 pages worth of ads and 37 pages worth of story. Actually, no, 33 pages worth of story. My handwriting's terrible. But you may think that, oh, it's not that bad of a deal. You're still going to get more pages worth of story than you will for ads. Well, here's the thing. Pacing. Pacing-wise, let's be honest, comic books have shifted a lot. People always like to complain that it's not like the golden age or the silver age that comics don't feel completed. They don't have a beginning, middle, and ending. Which, to be fair, yeah, you do have a big limit of 20 pages per se, or if you're trying to do something like Exquisite Corpse or Absolute Batman, then have more than that. But back then, I'm pretty much sure it was just their average 20 pages or so, right? But when we're pacing something nowadays, it's usually meant to fit in those like trade paperbacks or the hardcover paper and the hardcover trades, because they're trying to expand it enough to make one big booklet, and that's an issue right there already. Instead of trying to prioritize the consumers that are going to get it first day, they want to prioritize actually getting a big book out there, which is an idea I have. How about actual companies just release a big paperback now and then, you know? Instead of having to wait every month for Ultimate Spider-Man, just get a paperback every, 6 months or so. With the hype died down, Yes, but waiting every month would kind of feel like a pain. That's where manga has actually kind of shifted a bit. Manga releases chapters weekly, meaning every week you should be expecting a brand new chapter of Shonen Jump. But let's also talk about pricing. Now, most of these American comic books are typically priced from $5 to $7. And most of these that I showed you, yeah, they're definitely listed for a lot of the same price I just mentioned. But for what you're getting inside of it, you're getting kind of lithered with ads in a way, and somewhat okay pacing. It's not the best pacing, but at the same time, you know it could be a bit better, right? So that's a key point I'd like to mention. So yeah, that's my key point. I believe pacing and the price you're consuming. And $5 for a comic, you're like, oh, it's not that bad. That's actually pretty cheap. Let's compare that to a manga volume or manhwa volume. This is a copy of Shonen Jump for Kaiju number 8, right? For just $10. Or if you find it at Barnes & Nobles for a pretty good deal, you can probably get it 50% off if you get another manga. But that's another thing. For manga, it's typically listed from $9.99 to sometimes $12.99. So you're not typically getting a better deal per se if like you're trying to save up for something bigger if you purchase another comic. But think about the content you're getting. Shonen Jump ads are just placed at the end and aren't littering between chapters and chapters. You could just read all of the Shonen Jump manga for just probably like a few extra bucks more. Get overall more content and more worth of your money. For waiting every month and paying that price, sure, it may not seem like a big deal, but overall, like I said, it depends on the content that you're going to get inside of it. Some of these comics are worth it, like Absolute Batman Exquisite Corpses. You're going to get a lot of content within the comic, but stuff like Shonen Jump have already been like worthy of your money and your time, clearly. Not to mention some subscription services like the Shonen Jump app and the Viz app have become extremely popular as well. Instead of waiting for a volume to come out every 6 to 4 months, Shonen Jump prioritizes releasing weekly chapters, so that way they can get every chapter and bundle up into the volumes that we normally see at our local bookstores and stuff like that. But with all good things, there comes with a consequence. Stuff like weekly Shonen Jump may seem like a blessing to the audience, but let's be honest. When we read a weekly chapter or a monthly comic book, it takes, 20 minutes out of our day at best, right? But to the artists and the authors, it is countless hours of work, and some of these authors and artists suffer through a lot of mental health work. Stuff like Hunter x Hunter's artist had to recently go on like a little hiatus on continuing Hunter x Hunter, and as of recently it's announced that it's coming back, but that's not the point. The point is that the working condition for making a weekly Shonen Jump chapter is a lot to the artists. But if we look at comic books, it makes sense why. Comic books are done by big corporations, right? Shonen Jump, when it comes to making one like manga or like one chapter, I believe it takes 1 to sometimes 4 people, I believe, to make a weekly Shonen Jump chapter. So we have a whole team of people that are developing the coloring, art, inking when it comes to comic books, like a big team. But for manga, it's like sometimes a 2-man show, right? So it makes sense why comic books are sometimes taking the longer route, because it's better for mental health. And stuff like manhwa too, like that stuff could take up to like 4 weeks to make a chapter. And even then, some of those series are great and amazing. But think about the working condition as well, is all I'm trying to say. And let's point out the obvious, it isn't just with American comic books, but it's just pirating in general. Now, do I support pirating? Kind of. Some corporations are just very greedy, okay? But pirating as well just brings down sales in general. That's literally what I'm trying to say. It could work for comic books, animes, movies. That's just a general thing. Just a general thing I want to pull out there. Another thing that matters a lot is continuity. Now, for example, let's just say I went to go watch Spider-Man Brand New Day. I really want to get into Spider-Man comics in general. But then you'll realize that so many different runs have so many different tones. So let's just say Ultimate Spider-Man, the 2000 run. That one is centrally around a high schooler Spider-Man. Like, I don't want a high school Spider-Man. Maybe I want the classy version. Then I go to the 60s and 70s era and realize, yeah, I understand where Spider-Man kind of comes from, but Hollywood and stuff like that has kind of modernized them a bit more than the original. And then you want to go to a more mature story, then maybe you want to go to New Ultimate Spider-Man. And realize how many comics I'm listing just because I want to get into one character. Now, take the example for any graphic novel. I'm going to take Scott Pilgrim, for example. Literally, start at volume 1. That is all. Start at volume 1, end at volume 6. That's all. It's not mind-blowing, because some of these stories just want to drag on for issues after issues. Meanwhile, some indie gems like Scott Pilgrim, or I'm not sure if you really consider Scott Pilgrim indie, but I love it. If you read something like Scott Pilgrim, you realize that the further you read on, the more the story progresses. Stuff like, sorry, I'm about to say like a very bad word. When One More Day came out, it ruined everything that was built off The Amazing Spider-Man and just crumbled it all into a ball and just threw it into the trash can, right? So, in general, it's just a lot more easier to get into manga and manhwa and graphic novels in general, because at least they're trying to prioritize actually telling a story than just, oh, villain of the week. You know, that's what I'm trying to say. I'm not trying to say that comics aren't trying to do the same thing. Very good example. DC has been pushing out these compact comics, and it's primarily one of the best things the company has ever done. Literally, how I got into like Superman, Batman, and Flash were from the DC compacts. Now, basically, what are the DC compacts, right? They gather a bunch of iconic stories that have a beginning, middle, end, and bundle it all into this beautiful masterpiece of a comic called a DC compact. You literally get all the story for $10. Literally the same marketed price for a Shonen Jump volume is the same price that you can get a DC compact, and get an overall whole story and not feel like you have to wait next week for the next month for the next compact. It is literally one of the best things that they have done. It's a lot more accessible. It is portable. And another issue I'm gonna just rant about, trade paperbacks are just huge sometimes. Some of these things I want to bring to school and want to read them, but they're just too big. But the compacts just feel like a regular manga sized volume too. It's not even that big, it's not that small, it's like a medium sized range. So what does Marvel's even try to do this? They tried doing the Premiere Collection. This doesn't have a name, but it has like that red logo. But recently, all over the internet, they've been pushing out this Spider-Man Brand New Day comic, right? It's basically a compact, but for Marvel. I'm not sure if it has a name, but I saw like a few TikToks on it. It's like, oh, like DC finally has a solution. Marvel has a solution to the compact, and it's $10 too. So DC made a pretty good choice actually when it comes to the compacts, and pretty much sure DC's doing very well in general. But I believe Marvel has to learn a bit. That's just that. It's in my opinion. It's in my opinion. Another thing I'd like to mention: the lack of risks that these companies are taking. Now, a thing I'd like to mention is that, let's be honest, when we think about the current publishing things that they're doing, Marvel and DC, the best I hear is Ultimate and Absolute. And to that, I'd say, yeah, that's their primary sources. You know, of course you're gonna want a big primary character and a primary line, but as well, add more variety to your comics that you're publishing. A comic that is not from either of these two that I really love is from DC. The Matt Fractures one for Batman. I really love that. I really love that people were talking about the suit a lot during when it first came out. And I feel like that just reminds me of some, classic Batman again. That a lot. But other than that, I just want them to see more experimenting with characters. Peacemaker became this big popular character from DC because of the movies and everything, right? But let's be honest, people don't know where to read Peacemaker. Not that much, right? Personally, I would kill for a Batman Beyond comic. Last thing in general, and is that some people are just sick of seeing Superman and Spider-Man everywhere. And that's okay. But here's the thing. Marvel and DC prioritize it in one thing in general, and that's just superhero comics. And that's not a bad thing. Some companies just specialize in one thing while others just don't. And I feel like we shouldn't force these guys to stop doing what they love doing. Clearly it's work because they're still in business nearly over decades later and are getting these big budget Hollywood movies. But manga, manhwa, and graphic novels just expand beyond just one genre. Some of these don't even have superheroes in general, and that's okay. They could still be good. There's a slice of life, romance, action, and comedy, and any of these formats that you could find, and it doesn't even have to be about superheroes. So some people just don't want to see the same thing coming out every time from Marvel and DC. Some people just want originality for once, and that's okay. In conclusion, superhero comics will always stay dominant in the market regardless, but that doesn't mean that other formats aren't on the rise as well. If you would like, please make sure to subscribe, and turn notification bells so that way you'll never miss a video. Next one, I'm very excited for this movie. I'm about to go watch it. He-Man. I am so excited for this. I'm about to head out already, but thank you so much for watching today's video, and later. Bye.